Well, sometimes I read stuff from a guy named Bill Holter. He's kind of one of Jim Sinclair's friends. Jim Sinclair is a super old school gold guy. Um, Knows about all the manipulation, etc. He's big into setting up mining companies, and I think he's got something going on in South Africa or something somewhere like that. Um, but they don't just pay attention to gold and silver and that's it. They're paying attention to what the Fed does, the sometimes the COT reports, CFTC decisions, or not necessarily decisions, but just the nonsense of them being the supposed regulator and looking the other way. Just all of it, all the stuff that I look at. Um, as far as the markets are concerned, I know these guys are into that. I read a lot of what they actually write about. So Bill Holter has I was just reading about him the other day, but he said he's got more, to talk about, and he calls this an in your face black swan. Um, he says normally it's not a good idea to write about the same subject twice in a row because not much can be added and reader boredom sets in. What happened last Wednesday deserves another look. And of course, now he's referring to the Federal Reserve decision to raise that benchmark rate 0.25% or 25 basis points. So he says it deserves another look because I believe it marked a huge pivot point and very few are even talking about it. Last Wednesday, the Fed raised rates 0.25 point, but that was not the big story. The big story was the about face that the United States did geopolitically that nobody's really talking about. Um, we saw markets around the world convulse on Thursday and Friday. All attention has focused focused on the Fed rate hike, which no doubt was a contributor. How wise was it for the Fed to tighten credit conditions on a system already struggling and burdened with debt? There is no arguing we have systematically moved from the 2008 crisis, which is now widely understood as a credit event, into an even more highly levered situation. The recovery that never was is now met with a central bank's policy error. Errors just inside these things. I believe the tell on Friday was a weak dollar. Much of what happened in the markets could have been expected as reaction to the Fed tightening credit conditions, but not a weak dollar. The meeting between Mr. Lavrov, Mr. Putin, and John Kerry far overrides anything the Fed could have done or said, in my opinion. The foreign policy about face, where Mr. Assad, Syrian president, no longer needs to go. I thought he needed to go. Assad has got to go. Assad needs to go. No, he doesn't need to go. That's what he's talking about, the about face. He no longer needs to go. And Turkey being ordered to withdraw troops from northern Iraq was astonishing. These statements were followed by Mr. Putin establishing a no-fly zone over northern Syria. In another twist, Turkey still maintains Mr. Assad must go, and they are refusing to withdraw troops from the Iraq. I love that Miss American nonsense. Um, when in your lifetime have you ever seen anything like this? An ally, any ally for that matter, publicly denying U.S. will? We all saw an in-your-face black swan event, but few have recognized it yet. We have no idea what was told to Mr. John Kerry. We do, however, know he was told something and in no uncertain terms. As you know, I've been in the camp thinking Mr. Putin, supported by China, would drop some sort of truth bomb. I originally thought this truth bomb would have at least some ties to 9/11 because the outrage this would create amongst the US population. No doubt it would create a stir, but I'm afraid we are just too dumbed down to really even care anymore. After pondering this further, it occurred to me I have missed the obvious. What is the only thing the U.S. has left in the final pillar of support? What is the Achilles heel? The dollar and the ability to issue endless debt with that dollar. I believe it is a high probability Mr. Kerry was told what he already knows. Russia and China know, you know, I know, the whole world knows. And that is that the United States is flat broke. We have faked solvency for many years. The insolvency really appeared in 2007 and 8, but damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead we went. We were even aided in this effort to hide our insolvency by China, who bought our debt until the 2011-2012 timeframe. So in short, we were given enough time and rope to hang ourselves. I believe it is most likely Mr. Kerry was given an ultimatum by Mr. Putin, who spoke on behalf of China. Either play the game by our rules, or we pull the plug financially on your shell game. The U.S. has toppled regimes and assassinated rulers over the petrodollar and the recirculation of capital back through our treasury market. It is highly likely the threat of wholesale dumping of treasury securities was unveiled. Please do not tell me China would never do this. They know the position is ultimately valueless, and the reason they have accumulated so much gold and gone all over the world trying, not trying, but tying up resource properties, China and Russia as their bulldog, hold the key to exposing the fraudulent financial system of the West. Everything, and I do mean everything, we in the West believe in as value has treasuries as the foundations or foundation. Kill the treasury market and everything goes. Stocks, bonds, real estate, pensions, retirements, it all goes, and power goes with it. China has the ability to do this. Think about this for a moment. Russia and China have been stockpiling physical gold for years. China is in the process of pricing gold with their equivalent of the London fix. Only theirs will be physical, where actual physical trades set price as opposed to our nonsensical paper contract shenanigans that we've done it with through all these years. We know gold has been in backwardation in London for quite a while. This impossible market scenario finally reached the COMEX last week. We also know the December delivery will take everything the COMEX claims to be able to deliver. Do you really believe Mr. Putin does not know all of this? Do you really believe he doesn't know the gold scam is at the center of our grand Ponzi scheme? And Mr. John Kerry now knows, if he didn't already. So they know. Please do not laugh at this because the gold China has been gobbling up has pushed supply demand or the supply demand equation into deep deficit for quite a few years now. And the gold had to come from somewhere. For the U.S. to all of a sudden acquaintance, what is that? Acquaintance. Geopolitically, after ruling the world with an iron and immovable fist is a huge change. This change obviously has a reason behind it. The reason can only be military or financial, or could be both. Can a country fight a war if it is bankrupt and cannot finance the war? Was John Kerry informed of this little inconvenience? Rational minds do not want World War III. Those who need to cover up fraud, on the other hand, must have World War III. I can only think the threat of exposure and or destruction of the mechanism, which is the Western financial markets, used to project power has forced the U.S. to back off. The Fed does not have the power to absorb Chinese selling, and no amount of market, mind, media, manipulation can stand against the destruction of our paper markets, should the Chinese choose to do so. The other side of the Treasury dump card is, of course, breaking the paper metals market. In today's scheme of things, less than half a ham sandwich could do it. And the irony of it all, they only need to threaten to do this. The above is speculation on my part, but it is obvious something really huge just changed, and the U.S. no longer appears to be calling the shots. In my eyes, it is obvious what it was. The U.S. would not back down for any reason other than one, financial. Then one must ask where the U.S. is vulnerable. The ability to issue the world's reserve currency, the US dollar, the ability to issue unlimited debt, and the dirty little empty secret called Fort Knox. I believe we are seeing the very beginnings of a new world order. Decisions are being made where the public can deduce were not made in America. This could be a very interesting shortened week after the gyrations Thursday and Friday. I have said for quite some time, once the unraveling begins, it will go very quickly. We will soon know for sure whether the great unwinding has truly begun, and I believe it has. Could it be the black swan we have been looking for already landed, and in your face fashion, but very few have recognized it yet? No one could have foreseen the U.S. being ordered to do anything, yet this is exactly what appears to have happened last week. Assad must go. Assad must go. We're going to come into Iraq. We're getting at the lady from the Iraqi parliament or government, whatever. 100,000 troops are coming. We know what the U.S. is doing. Okay, we're backing out of Iraq, Syria, Turkey. You're our ally. You need to get out of there too. Assad must go. Assad must go. Nope, he can stay. It reminds me of those little. Remember the old cartoon where one saying yes and one saying no. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, no. Then he tricks them. No, yes. Is that what just happened in the U.S.? Was Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck? Yes, no, yes, no, no, yes. And Putin. That was Putin's grand master plan. No, nah. It'd be funny if that was how easy it was, but there's something way more serious, in which I'm sure Putin and them probably said. It could have been something as simple as, we've been buying all this gold and silver from these other sources. Mr. Kerry, tell the president, Obama, if you guys continue doing this BS, effective just about immediately, we're going to place a very large deliverable order of gold and silver on your COMEX market. And I hope you got it there to deliver. Oh, and by the way, we're going to melt down every bar you send us to make sure there's no tungsten in it. That little sentence, honestly, would be all it would take. Stop the great Roman Empire dead in its tracks. Because we ain't got that gold. Comics ain't got that gold. They ain't got nothing but paper promises. Dumb and Dumber. IOU. Oh, that's a big one. $250K for that one. You want to hang on to that one. Right? So, honestly, we don't know what it was. We just know that we backed out immediately. All bark all of a sudden and no more bite. And I'm thinking about this. I was telling my friend about the UFC fight the other day that I watched. That was over in 13 seconds, the final match. And I said, I was watching the Ultimate Fighter show, not the UFC, but the show where these fighters want to get into the UFC. And they got to fight each other, and they got some foreigners, they got the Americans, and, these two beat these two. So then they, next ladder, then you're finally left with the two, finalists. And I'm seeing, all the Americans think they're the shit. All the foreigners have in their mindset, I'm going to teach these Americans a lesson. And they're interviewing them. And they actually did teach them Americans a lesson. The foreigners whooped America. And as I'm watching this, I'm just, this TV show, I cannot help but think, man, is this not ironic? Is this not like a kind of foreshadowing, if you will, of what's really happened in America and the world? And then I just read you this. The stand down order came from Putin or whoever else. You ain't coming in here. You're not removing Assad. That's been canceled. Oh, we are. Yeah, guys, go ahead and cancel that. How embarrassing. How freaking embarrassing is that? Lindsey Williams called it, didn't he? America will be taken from first world status down to third world. I'm pretty sure third world countries don't tell first world countries what to do. I'm pretty sure it's always been the first world countries telling anybody else what to do, especially ours when you're the top first world country. We just had Russia tell us, stand down. And we stood down. Wow. What a sad day. The former democracy you once knew should have been a republic known as the United States of America. Take care.